Hi, lovelies, welcome back. Today I have a question that was sent in, and so I'm going to do my best to answer it. And it was relating to the topic of anxiety, but as you know, if you've watched any of my videos and you've been around this conversation, what I'm about to say is not exclusive to anxiety. It's really about undesirable human experience of any kind. So you can substitute it with stress, you can substitute it with depression, you can substitute it with, heartbreak, grief, loss, just anything that you feel like, yeah, anxiety is not really my problem, but, I'd love her to talk about this. So it really all comes down to the same thing. And the question is, can you talk about how to not resist our anxiety? And the thing with resistance is that it is something that on the surface and kind of at first glance looks like it might work, looks like it might be effective. So the reason people resist anxiety, and again, substitute it with whatever, depression, grief, sadness, loss, stress, anger, the reason people think, yeah, resisting that experience is kind of the way that I'm going to go about not feeling it or feeling better, is because if that is what makes sense to you to do, then that's what you're going to do, all of us. As you hear me say week in and week out, we do what makes sense to us to do given how we understand life. So if you're feeling really anxious and you think, well, I don't want to feel like this, and so I'm just going to resist it. I'm just going to kind of be in denial about it and try to push it away and try to not feel it and try to, tell myself how much I dislike it and how much it's not okay to feel like this and try to make myself feel something else. Well, the thing is I'm sure the person who asked me this question has experienced, it doesn't work that well. It really doesn't. It really is one of those things that sounds pretty good on the surface, sounds like, yeah, that might be a good strategy, until you actually try it and realize it's actually a terrible strategy. So again, if it looks to you like anxiety is this thing that you're going to feel and it's going to be awful and really unsafe and really terrible and really meaningful and really, then of course you might think, I'm going to do the resistance strategy. That's going to be the way that I feel better. But there's two things. One is that it's based on a misunderstanding of what anxiety is. Because the misunderstanding about anxiety is a misunderstanding about the human experience on a deeper level. And what I mean by that is we tend to think that what we feel and what comes up in our experience needs to be taken seriously, is personal, is important, is relevant, is worth taking seriously and buying into, is giving us important info about our lives. So as long as you're operating under that assumption, then of course, if you have anxiety come up and you instantly think, oh, this is telling me something about my life or about me, then you're going to feel a whole lot worse because your relationship to that thinking is one of, it's completely true, it's completely real, it's completely valid. Now, what do I do about it? And that makes sense if that's how you see anxiety. If it looks like it's not safe and transient, if it looks like it's harmful and permanent, then of course, to then look at what strategy, am I going to choose resistance today? Am I going to choose denial today? Am I going to choose fighting back? All of those make sense if you're misunderstanding the problem to begin with. But the thing with anxiety and the thing with human experience of any kind is that it has a bigger bark than bite. So it talks a big game. It talks a good game. It's very convincing. It's very persuasive. And if we don't know that it's actually just energy moving through the system, harmless, fleeting, temporary energy just moving through our system, then of course we're going to look for, well, what strategy do I need? I need either resistance, or I need coping, or I need tools, or I need, denial. I'm not feeling like this right now. But all of that is making anxiety into something it's not. It feels really awful. I know I suffered from it for over a decade of severe chronic anxiety. But that's because I misunderstood it. That's because I truly thought when it came up that it was giving me accurate information about my life, or I thought it was giving me accurate information about the type of person I was, or the issue I would always have to deal with, or that it was everything it was telling me needed to be listened to and taken seriously and respected. So of course I then looked for a strategy. Of course I was like, do I resist it? Do I do I deny it? Do I try to cope with it? How do I cope with it? But when I started to see, oh, this just has a really big bark and no bite. This talks a good game, talks a really big game, but what it's telling me is fundamentally untrue. And I know it's fundamentally untrue because I know that thought is just mental energy. It's mental experience. It's coming from the same energy that beats my heart and breathes my lungs, the same energy that's living me, is what is putting thoughts in my head. And when they feel like shit, it's telling me, hey, you don't have to buy into this. And when it's feeling like how we all love to feel, calm, peaceful, kind of just contented, then it's aligned with our true nature. Then it's coming through with like clarity and just undistorted, unbiased. And that's when we know that it's safe to trust and safe to listen to. And so the feeling is our guide. We know that when stuff comes through and it feels, whether it's anxiety provoking, whether it's really depressive, whether it feels like heartbreak, whether it's really stressful, whether it's anger provoking, when it comes through and feels awful, it's telling us this is not clear. This is not the natural expression of your true nature and your essence. This is a bunch of neurological junk that's coming through the system. And when you know that, then of course you're not going to want to resist it, because why would you? And even if you don't see this, I think that, even people who say, well, I haven't quite had insights around that yet, or if this is, if you're stumbling upon this video for the very first time and you're like, wow, I had no idea that our feelings were a sign about how distorted our thinking was. Or I had no idea that I am peaceful by nature. When I'm not feeling peaceful, it means I'm caught up in thinking. If this is the first time you're hearing that, you don't even have to worry, because the really cool thing about resistance, why I'm so glad that I got sent this question, is even if you don't know the kind of what's happening upstream of it, what's happening on a fundamental level, what's happening on a source level, you will still be able to see that resisting is a terrible strategy because it doesn't work. If you have been a human being for any length of time, I'm assuming if you found your way to YouTube and you're watching this video that you have been. Although it's saying that I know some 7-year-olds or 5-year-olds that can watch YouTube videos now. And anyway, if you're 5 or 7, good job. If you're older than that, then you have seen that when you are feeling anxious and you try to resist it, it does not work. Why doesn't it work? Well, again, anxiety is energy. It's energy moving through the system. So good luck trying to use more mental energy to resist or fight off or eliminate or do battle with more mental energy. It's like everything that you're doing to resist it, all of the, I don't like this, I don't want to feel like this, I can't feel like this, I need to get out of this isn't safe, this is too much, I can't cope, how do I cope, can somebody, help me with this? All of that is, again, thought. What is thought? It's mental energy. So seeing that, even when you don't see the piece that's really foundational and fundamental at the heart of my work, even if you just look for it in your own life and say, well, when I'm feeling anxious, does resisting it and fighting it actually help? And what you'll come to see is no, it does not. It's not a good strategy because it doesn't work. So you can't have less mental energy by revving up your mental energy. You can't fight off a feeling by trying to give yourself another feeling that will squash or crush that feeling. It doesn't work that way. And that's why I love getting these questions and get these questions so often, is that people genuinely think that anxiety is something that needs to be resisted. But then they come to me and they say, well, it's actually not working for me because, they're like, maybe I'm doing it wrong, or maybe I need more tools or more techniques or more kind of grip on resisting, or maybe I need more information, and it's like all of that is missing the point. Because the point is, if you were able to just not feel things by resisting them, then you wouldn't be watching this video right now interested in this question, because you would have been like, was she talking about resistance anxiety? I've never felt anxiety because my strategy is 100% effective, but it's not. I know it's not, because I know that you're a human being. I'm a human being. My clients are human beings. Everybody that you know in your life are human beings. And I know for a fact that if resistance worked, we wouldn't all be saying, why does resistance not work for me? Or why does it seem like what I resist persists? So why does it seem like I'm not good enough at it to get rid of my anxiety? Well, simply because you're misunderstanding it. Really, sweethearts, the only thing that is happening is we're misunderstanding it. So you'll see in your own life, if you look, that resistance doesn't work, and that it's not an effective strategy, and that it actually doesn't get you to freedom. But the reason that is everything we've been talking about upstream. It feels, when we're anxious, as though it's very true, very compelling, very valid, very meaningful, and very personal. But that is because it has a bigger bark than bite. In truth, it is safe. It is transient. It is impersonal. And what I mean by impersonal, I don't mean that it's not going to fill in details about your life and your scenario and your past. Of course it's going to do that. You have a brain, and your brain is very good at memory and data recollection. But what I mean is, if you look across the board, you'll see that there is no human being that doesn't know what it's like to feel anxious. There's no human being that doesn't know what it's like to feel sad. There's no human being that doesn't know what it's like to feel stressed. Like, that doesn't exist. Why? Because they are impersonal things, impersonal forms this energy takes, that all of us are up against. Literally all of us. So when you start to see that, like, oh, well, of course I'm going to feel anxious from time to time. I'm a human being. That's what happens. But my anxiety is not something that is valid and meaningful. It's not something that's telling me about my life. It's not something that is really as unsafe as it feels. I know it feels awful. It's not fun to have panic attacks. Panic attacks feel like doom and dread and despair and everything that is awful. I know. I've had them. I get it. But when you really start to see that it talks a bigger game than it actually is, that it at its core is passing, fleeting, safe energy, and it won't feel like that when it's in your consciousness, when it's giving you an experience, then you can kind of start to learn to take it with a grain of salt. You will see that you don't have to resist it, you just have to understand it. It will seem more compelling than it really is. It will seem more dangerous than it really is. It will seem more personal than it really is. It will seem bigger and scarier and like something that really needs to be reckoned with. But it doesn't. Because fundamentally, it comes up and makes you feel like shit and it leaves. It comes up, gives you an experience, and it leaves. That is the way that experience moves through us. So that's why I said at the beginning, like, this is not just about anxiety. If you have any human experience, which I know you do, because you have a pulse, so you wouldn't be able to watch this and understand my words right now, then you have human experience come up. And that experience feels bigger, scarier, more meaningful, more personal, more important than it is when you're in it. But when you look back, when you kind of step back and get that bigger vision, that kind of bird's eye view, you'll realize that you've come through every anxious experience you've ever had. You've come through every depressed experience, heartbroken experience. All of that has come up, made you feel like shit, and moved through you. None of it is permanent. None of it means anything about you. All of it is universal because we can see it in each other. It's not like when I see someone that's depressed, I'm like, well, God, I don't know what that's like. Oh, we all know what that's like because we all work the same way. So seeing that like these things that we feel are not what they appear. As personal as it looks, it's universal. As scary as it looks, it's safe. As solid as it looks, it's temporary and transient, is what allows us to naturally understand what's going on and have a relationship of just ease and grace and flow. Like, yeah, you'll feel it when you're in it, but if you don't do anything with it, if you don't try to fight it off or battle it or resist it or make it a big deal or make it personal or make it about you, guess what's going to happen? It's going to leave. And it's going to leave even if you do those things. It's just that it leaves as quickly and efficiently and naturally and easily when we see it for what it is. And so again, it all comes down to understanding, and we do the best we can given with what we understand. So when you start to see what your anxiety really is, what your feelings of depression really are, what your feelings of stress really are, what your feelings of anger or heartbreak really are, then you will naturally have them move through you in easier, graceful, less rocking the boat type ways. And it won't look to you like resisting it is a good idea, because why would I do that? That's not going to help me, and if anything, it's going to keep it around for longer. But until you see what anxiety really is, we think on the surface, yeah, resistance is the way to go. I don't want to feel this. Therefore, if I just, use willpower and put on my big girl panties and just deal with it and just, fight it off and resist it and be like, no, not today, anxiety. I'm not doing this. If we think that that's the way through it, then we're gonna do it. But when we start to see, yeah, that doesn't work, and here's why it doesn't work, because it's adding more energy when the problem is already just too much mental energy, then we'll naturally stop doing it because it'll make no sense. When things don't make sense to us, we stop doing it. And when it makes sense, we do it. So, in a nutshell, resisting anxiety is just a symptom of not understanding anxiety. And when you understand it, you won't be asking, how do I not resist it? You'll be like, why on earth would I resist it given what it is? It just will simply make no sense. And in the meantime, if it still makes sense to you to do that, that's okay. Just maybe look in the direction of, well, is this actually effective? If this was actually working for me, then, if it worked for you, great, carry on. But I know how human beings work, and I know that chances are it's not working out for you. It's not working out well for any of us. Why? Because it's just simply a bad strategy based on a misunderstanding. And when you look in your own life and see that, I've been resisting my anxiety for a long time and it didn't get me anywhere. It's not getting me relief. It's not getting me freedom. It's not helping me feel better. I'm still feeling stuck. I'm still feeling in it. I'm still feeling like it's a problem. Then that's just more and more evidence. That's more and more kind of just natural noticing of what's true and what's not true. That's going to point you upstream to maybe I'm misunderstanding anxiety. Maybe there's something here that I'm not seeing. And that is what does all the heavy lifting and makes resistance just look like, why the heck would I ever want to do that? So I hope this was helpful. As always, leave your questions in the comments below. I love hearing from you guys. I put out new videos every Friday, so I will be back with you next week. Please subscribe if you haven't already. And yeah, if there's anything you want me to talk about, leave it in the comments below and I'll be happy to address it. Take care, my lovelies. Have a great weekend. Bye.